If you're like me, you've been trying to figure out how to distance yourself from the noise around you and the voices around you. And what I mean by that is it could be the news, it could be your friends, it could be your family, it could be your friend of a neighbor who's trying to give you their opinion on whatever it might be. And honestly, any of this stuff could be about anything going on in the news right now. It could be about masks, it could be about racial issues, it could be about tensions elsewhere, it could be about the election coming up, it could be about anything. But the thing is, this is not new to this time, despite the fact that for some crazy reason we have COVID and the election and racial issues all in the same year, also with hurricanes and murder hornets. Despite all of that, this is not new. We've always had a lot of voices circling us at all times, people trying to communicate to us what we should think. What we need to fall back on is how to think for ourselves based on truth. And I personally have been struggling with this as someone who deals with OCD and anxiety. What happens to me is my brain goes on a hamster wheel, and the more I hear, especially if it's stressful things, stressful news, the hamster wheel goes faster and faster. It's basically like a car stuck in mud and somebody pressing on the gas, and you're not getting anywhere, you're just going deeper and getting stuck more. So this quote is from J. Michael Straczynski. He wrote it for The Amazing Spider-Man Civil War. You probably know this quote from Captain America Civil War. I knew this quote beforehand. If you have not, also, by the way, if you've not read J. Michael Straczynski's book, Becoming Superman, you need to go to your bookshop and buy it. It is incredible. He is a phenomenal writer. He has had his hand in so many different comics, sci-fi, Babylon 5, everything. You need to read this book. But this is what that full quote says. I think you know what I'm going with. It doesn't matter what the press says, doesn't matter what the politicians or the mob say, doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something wrong is something right. This nation was founded on one principle above all else: the requirement that we stand up for what we believe, no matter the odds or the consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the world, no, you move. So thank God for us as believers, that river of truth is the Bible, right? The Bible is our foundation of truth, and that is because of Jesus, God sending Jesus down to die for us, to release us of our sins, to love us. 1 Corinthians 3:11 says, no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ. He is the strongest foundation that we have, and he imparts truth in the Bible. Another really large part of the Bible that you might find helpful is Proverbs. Just reading from Proverbs 1 really quick. The Proverbs are here to gain wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, receiving instruction in prudent behavior, doing what is right and just and fair, and so on. And the reason I'm imparting this to you is because if you are having trouble like I am, again, I'm calling myself out a little bit on this. If you are having trouble discerning the voices that through which everyone is kind of shouting at you, take a step back. Remember the gospel truth. Remember that you know morality. You know what is right and wrong. You know what matters and what doesn't. You know how to think based on these things, and then proceed through all of the voices yelling at you and see what is true. See what holds up. See what doesn't hold up. Don't use these quotes disrespectfully. Walk with them humbly. But these are really helpful magnifying glasses to call up truth, to call up the falsities that are being thrown around out there, whether it's this year, next week. But remember too that when someone is calling you out on something that you know is right and they're saying it's wrong, remember that it is okay to plant yourself beside that river of truth and say, no, you move. There are some things that in my life where I'm having to call that out, and when you do that humbly but respectfully, but again truthfully, because thank God for Jesus, that is one of the most powerful things you can do.